the On Cloud 6 versus the Vans UltraRange 2.0. So both of these shoes are models that I love to use for daily wear, travel, and then some training. So I wanted to compare them because they are both very popular amongst different circles, and I wanted to talk about some differences to keep in mind and which you should go with based off of your needs and how you want to use them and whatnot. So 4 major differences to note between the UltraRange 2.0 and the On Cloud 6 is number 1, their midsoles and how they're going to feel under the foot. So over here in the On Cloud 6, you have the Cloud Tech midsole. Now compared to the Cloud 5, for all of my cloud lovers, the tweak in this midsole is that the brakes up here in the forefoot have been shortened a little bit, so it does give it a slightly denser ride, but overall this midsole does move pretty well and it has a little bit of give to it, and it runs a little bit softer than the UltraRange 2.0. So if you like a lot of rock with your shoes when you're walking and we're just wearing them casually, and if you want a very soft and articulative midsole, that would definitely be something to consider with the On Cloud 6. In the Vans UltraRange 2.0, you have the Ultra Cush midsole. This is a little bit more of a traditional midsole regarding its structure, and it has a slightly wider platform. So if you're a heavier set individual, or if you're just somebody that wants a bit more structure to their shoe, this can be a really good thing with the UltraRange. For example, like if you like to have a little bit more stability under the foot, that would be where this midsole is going to pick up some ground on the On Cloud 6, because with this midsole and the brakes here, you're not going to have as much surface area with the ground under the foot. The second difference to note between these shoes is their outsole constructions. So one of the issues that I have with the On Cloud models is that with their lightweight design, while that is great for breathability, keeping them light on your foot and keeping them comfortable, it can come at the cost of some durability. So here we have breaks of this outsole tread where you have foam exposed. As you can see here on my medial side, I scraped this while walking the pup, and it's already starting to scuff, and this was an issue that I had on the On Cloud 5. And so if you live in drier climates, or if you live in climates where it's a little bit more moderate with the weather, it shouldn't be the biggest deal. But if you live in damp settings, or if you're going to be constantly navigating dirt and mud, that would definitely be something to consider with this model, because if it gets into the Cloud Tech midsole, it can be a really big pain to clean and it tends to break down faster. Also, you do have foam that is closer to the ground, which can cause some scuffing if you're somebody who traditionally does scuff your feet here and there or drag your feet here and there, like myself, because I can be a little bit clumsy at times, I'm not going to lie to you. In the Vans UltraRange 2.0, you have a full rubber tread with a few breaks throughout with exposed foam. When it comes to navigating different elements, this is going to give you way more protection and durability in my opinion, and you're going to have a slightly better grip on certain surfaces. So really it comes down to where you live and how you plan to wear your shoes. If you're in a warmer setting, or if you don't plan to really navigate any crazy weather, the On Cloud 6 will be likely fine for most individuals. But if you just want a little bit more protection for the midsole, or if you know you live in a damper climate, that's where the UltraRange 2.0 can make a little bit more sense. The third major difference to note between these shoes is their fits. So the Vans UltraRange 2.0 has been made to be wider than the XO model and the prior UltraRange models. So if you're somebody with a slightly wider foot and you like a slightly wider midfoot at that, because the taper here isn't super aggressive, that's where the UltraRange 2.0 can make a lot of sense, and you can wear them loose and they don't lose any form of security. Granted, this tongue can slide a little bit, and I'll talk about that in my daily wear comparison between these shoes, but from an overall fit context, if you have a wider and flatter foot, the UltraRange 2.0 can be a better bet. In the On Cloud 6, this model has been widened from the On Cloud 5. I found the 5's toe box to run way too shallow regarding upper volume and narrow. The 6 does have a better fit, so it should accommodate slightly wider feet a little bit better. But one thing to note between the differences of these shoes' fits is the arch. So in the On Cloud 6, you have a much more aggressive taper here from the midfoot and the forefoot. And so if you have a flatter foot, you just don't love any form of arch in your shoes, or if you just don't want any form of pressing of the material into your foot, that would be something to consider. But all that to say, if you have a narrow D, E, double E width foot, both these shoes I think should be fine for your foot anatomies. If you have a 3E plus foot width, the UltraRange 2.0 would be a better bet, and you're going to probably size up a half size to give yourself additional room. The fourth major difference to note between these shoes is their overall functionality. So with the On Cloud 6, this model can be great for casual wear and then also some light training in the gym. I honestly don't love training super hard in the On Cloud 6. I often recommend folks don't do it because with the midsole being a little bit more plush, you are going to lose stability pretty quickly, especially if you are loading a bit heavier. So for example, if you're deadlifting or squatting anything over 185 with free weights, or doing any form of machine work where you're pushing, I would say honestly, over like 150 pounds on a leg press or a hack squat, you will likely start to notice this Cloud Tech midsole start to compress. Also with this shoe, shoe, it comes with the speed laces. It comes with additional laces as well if you want to do more of a traditional lacing system. But why I love the On Cloud 6 is because with the speed lacing, you can just slide them on and off and make it really easy. I don't love using traditional eyelets on the shoe, and so what that does in the gym is it comes at the cost of giving you additional lockdown for cross training and whatnot. So if you're going to be traveling and you just want a very casual shoe for warmer climates and just wearing to the airport, walking around in, the On Cloud 6 can make a lot of sense. The UltraRange 2.0 can give you a little bit more range in my opinion regarding its functionality. This is a shoe that's comfortable for daily wear, and you can also wear it in the gym. If you go with the mesh option, I have the suede overlay option. It also has more breathability, but the upper with this shoe is going to give you more lockdown, and the midsole is going to give you a bit more stability. So I have trained up to 405 in this shoe and haven't had many issues. So that is where you're going to get a give and a take between these shoes. They both work great for daily wear, but in the gym, the UltraRange 2.0 is the better shoe. And if you live in hotter climates, go On Cloud 6 or go with the UltraRange 2 with the mesh upper. But now let's cover a couple of performance differences between these models. All right, to break down the performance differences between these shoes, I'll discuss how they do for just general training. So think like lifting, cross training, a blend of everything. If you're traveling, for example, and doing a hotel workout, I'll discuss how they do for walking and daily wear, and then I'll discuss some thoughts on just general comfort with these shoes. So when it comes to gym use, I kind of covered this in my differences section, but the UltraRange 2.0 is going to be the better shoe, especially for anybody who plans to do more strength training and cross training with their sessions. This model is going to give you more stability with the Ultra Cush midsole, its outsole is going to give you more traction on different surfaces, and the upper grips a little bit better. And again, if you go with the mesh option, you're going to get a nice blend of security and breathability, whereas with the suede option, you get a good security, but it does come at the cost of some breathability. So definitely consider that. With this shoe, I have trained up to 405 with deadlifts in this model, and it's been fine. So I do think for most individuals who are a lot more casual with their training and just doing a little bit of everything, the UltraRange 2.0 can be an awesome option. With the On Cloud 6, this is what I call a hotel workout shoe. It's going to be okay if you're going and you're doing, let's say, goblet squats with like 60, 70 pound dumbbells, you're doing some lunges, maybe you're doing a few box jumps here and there, but it's not going to be the shoe that you wear to the gym and go super hard in my opinion. The upper can have issues with security. And again, with this midsole here, it's a little bit soft. So if you're doing multi-directional work, for example, and this compresses in, you can lose out on that nice stable base that you want out of a training shoe to get more power and force through the ground. So both shoes you can technically train in casually, but if you're going harder, UltraRange 2.0 again is taking the win. The On Cloud 6 is a lot more casual. If you're looking into an on shoe for cross training and lifting, go with the Cloud X4. It's going to be a slightly better model for that. The Cloud Tech midsole runs a bit more dense, and I have filmed a video comparing this shoe to the Cloud X4, and I'm going to link that up there. When it comes to just daily wear and general comfort, I like both of these shoes, but for different reasons. The On Cloud 6, I really enjoy wearing when it's a little bit hotter and I'm going for slightly longer walks. So what I like about this shoe regarding its general comfort is the slight bevel back here in the heel and the toe spring. It feels very easy to wear for longer walks, and the breathability is really great, so no matter what socks I choose to wear for the day, I know I'm not going to be too hot in this shoe. My only gripes with this shoe for daily wear is once again the durability of the midsole. You will want to consider that. And then also, if you have a low volume and narrow foot, and I talk about this in my review, you might actually want to look into the On Cloud 5 if you just love the On Cloud shoes and you're thinking about getting your first pair, or if you're in a 5 now and you're like, should I level up and get a 6 or should I stay the same? You may want to find some older 5s if you can. This model also has a bit more arch to it, so if you like a light arch support, that would also be something to consider with the On Cloud 6, and the heel to toe drop of this shoe sits at 8 millimeters. With the Vans UltraRange 2.0, I find this shoe to be super comfortable as well. It's one of my favorite shoes just to wear out and about for traveling, walking the dog, running some errands, and then going to train in. It's kind of my foolproof shoe for doing a bit of everything, and I also just love the style of this model. Some things that make it different from the On Cloud 6 from a daily wear and just comfort standpoint is it does have that slightly wider platform with less bevel and less toe spring. So if you like a flatter feeling shoe, this could be a good option to look into over the Cloud 6. Now do note the heel to toe drop of the UltraRange 2 sits at 7 millimeters, so it's not a flat shoe, it just feels flatter in comparison to the sole of the On Cloud 6. I also think the UltraRange 2 can take an edge here is if you live in colder climates, go with the suede option. Or if you live in damp climates or climates where you're navigating mud and dirt and a little bit of rain, this model can have a bit more longevity to it as well regarding its overall performance. So now which model is taking the overall W for daily wear and comfort? I'm gonna have to give the edge to, man, this is so tough. I would probably give the edge to the UltraRange 2, but the On Cloud 6 again is awesome, and I rotate between these shoes depending on what I'm doing. Hotter days, longer longer walks on Cloud 6, kind of all day wear if I'm working at the shop and I want to train, UltraRange 2. All right, so now let's compare the weight, heel to toe drop, and insoles in the Cloud 6 and the UltraRange 2. So I have a size 10 US shoe in both of these models. In my On Cloud 6, we have a weight of 10.10 ounces. In the Vans UltraRange 2, we have a weight of 11.85 ounces. Again, this is the model with the suede overlay, so if you go with the mesh option, it will be a little bit lighter. The heel to toe drop of the UltraRange 2 sits at 7 millimeters, and then in the On Cloud 6, you have a heel to toe drop of 8 millimeters. So both are very similar regarding their drops, and then the On Cloud 6 does have a thin foam removable insole, and the UltraRange 2 does not. This insole is glued in, so you can remove it, but if you do remove it, do so with caution to make sure that you're able to either one, get it back in, or get your orthotic or insert in if you need to put one into this shoe. All right, so now let's cover some construction differences between the Cloud 6 and the UltraRange 2. Up here on the Cloud 6, you have an extended outsole layer that wraps up, and then looking at the upper of this model, you have a mesh upper that runs throughout the entirety of the forefoot into the midfoot, and you also have some synthetic overlays around the forefoot up here on the lateral medial toe box, and then up here on the toe box itself. Looking at the midfoot of this shoe, you have 6 traditional eyelets that go up with a 7th back here for lace lock. This model does once again come with the speed lacing or quick lacing system, and it does have a gusset to the tongue. So even though the security is a little bit looser with this lacing system, the tongue doesn't really move, which is something that I do love about the On Cloud 6. The boot does have a bit of structure to it, not overly structured to where it feels super limiting, but it does have a nice cup to it to help lock your foot down. And I don't think most individuals should have heel slip in the shoe unless you do again have a narrow and low volume foot. You may want to swap in the traditional laces. Looking at the Vans UltraRange 2, up here on the toe, we have an extended outsole layer that wraps up and covers the entirety of this shoe's midsole. Then we also have these suede and mesh overlays that go throughout the entirety of the shoe. Again, this model does have the suede, so it does run a little bit heavier, and this is a layered material. The boot back here has a light structure as well, similar to the On Cloud 6. It doesn't feel overly bearing by any means. Looking at the midfoot, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 core eyelets that go up with a 7th back here for lace lock, and the tongue does have a low gusset. The issue I have with this tongue is that it's a little bit short and it can slide a tiny bit if you wear them loose. I talk about that in my review, but it is just one of those random quirks with the shoe where I'm just like, why? Why did you make the tongue so short? Looking at the midsole, you have the Ultra Cush midsole that runs throughout the entirety of this shoe. You got some Vans branding back here on the heel, and then you have a full rubber tread here with a diamond tread. These lugs are pretty deep, and you also have some brakes here that have exposed foam in the heel, forefoot, and midfoot. Looking at the On Cloud 6, you have the Cloud Tech midsole that runs throughout the entirety of this shoe, and looking at the outsole, you do have a rubber tread here on the heel and the forefoot. The midfoot is exposed foam, and there are brakes here with exposed foam as well. Once again, the On Cloud 6 does have a removable insole. The UltraRange 2.0 does not. If you have additional questions, drop a comment down below. All right, guys, there I have this comparison to the On Cloud 6 and the Vans UltraRange 2. I know this comparison might not be applicable to everybody, but I love these two shoes for daily wear, and I know a lot of us are similar, so hopefully this video helped you decide which would be best for the context of your needs. If you have additional questions on either of these shoes, drop a comment down below or hit me on Instagram, whichever you prefer. And as always, y'all, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one.